Good afternoon, everybody, all the participants, faculty, principals. A very warm welcome to all of you. A special welcome to all our panelists today. Uh, this webinar that we are doing as part of our Career Talk series is the ninth webinar in this series. Task, as you know, Telangana Academy for Skill and Knowledge was established by the government of Telangana primarily to enhance the employability of students. So we are constantly working on coming up with different training programs, different skilling initiatives to see how we can bridge the gap between the industry and academia. How can our students become more attractive to the industry? How can we solve the problem of unemployment as well as underemployment of our youth today? So as part of these things, we have over 70, 80 programs that are given both in the technical and non-technical areas. Now, currently we have 676 colleges registered with us and over 1.4 lakh students. Now, in these times where everything is so uncertain, there is a lot of confusion among students as to how their future is going to be. How is the industry going to change post the pandemic situation? What are the new skill sets required? How are the technologies going to evolve? Are certain kind of jobs going to become redundant and outdated? What are the new job roles that might emerge? And what basically is the industry like for, especially for the students passing out in 2020? There is a lot of speculation, a lot of confusion. So, in order to address all these areas, to bring more clarity from the industry experts themselves, we started the Career Talk series. Every week, we address a different industry. So far, we have done 8 talks. We have covered IT, manufacturing, aerospace, retail and marketing, pharma. Today, we are doing logistics. We did infrastructure as well. So every week we're addressing a different industry for a specific set of students so that they understand how to move ahead and how to build their skills. Today we have a elite panel covering experts from the logistics industry, different companies, some of the top companies in India. I'm sure they'll be able to bring clarity about how the students can prepare themselves. Thank you all for joining us once again. And Shrikant sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Shruti. Really, a very good afternoon to everyone, all the principals, the TPOs, faculty members, dear students, and of course, the esteemed panel itself. Um, we would have done this session face to face, but the pandemic has forced us to go online, which is not necessarily a bad thing because I think this way we are able to get the right kind of people at a very short notice. And that's where I would like to really appreciate our panel accepting our invite and joining us at such a short notice. We have got as Shruti mentioned, we have got a very diverse and a very panel today on this topic itself. If you look at what COVID has done, is it has changed the way people will work and act, and it is bringing what we call as a contact-free society. And of course, like all the industries, logistics industry has also got impacted. And if we compare it with the last, the 2008, it is expected that the logistics industry probably would take a hit of anywhere from 8 to 13% compared to 5% in 2002. And that is where we are looking at the reasons why it is not taking that bad a hit as other industries is because of one thing, which is everyone has started, because digital is growing, a lot of things are being done online, and logistics online is the way of how fulfillment is happening. Well, anyway, I think when we have such experts, I should not stand in between you and them. It is indeed my pleasure and an honor to introduce our first panelist, Mr. Vipin Vora, who is the chairman of Continental Carriers Private Limited, a veteran in the industry itself, and an extremely well-known name. Welcome, sir. The next panelist is Captain Ramanujan TS. He is the CEO of Logistics Sector Skill Council. Captain, a very warm welcome to you. We have Major General M.S. Krishnan, who is a supply chain expert and a global mentor to ISCEA and the supply chain next. Executive, welcome to you, Bejit Krishnan. We have Mr. Satish Lakaraju, Chief Commercial Officer of Agility Logistics, one of the large logistics companies in India, having a huge back office here, even in Hyderabad. Welcome, Satish Garu. And last but not the least, we have Mr. Rohan Mittal, who's the Chief Transformation Officer at Gati, which is All Cargo Logistics Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, we have got a very unique and a diverse panel amongst us today. So what I'd like them to do is, and probably start with Mr. Vora itself, seeing that he has seen the industry for such a long time. So Mr. Vora, I would request you to please introduce yourself, your organization, and I would also like you to talk about how the logistics industry has changed as you had seen it as a youth when you entered this logistics industry ages ago, and how it has developed over the years. So over to you, Mr. Vora.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello everyone. I'm Bipin Vora. I'm the chairman of a company called Continental Carriers Private Limited, which is one of the oldest company in Delhi. The company was started way back in 1957 by my father. I'm the second generation. And now both my sons, they both studied in US. They are now with me in the company. We started as a small freight broker, doing custom clearance way back in 57. With only 4 people or 90 rupees capital, my father started the company, and
I should send the link there. I don't.
hello, can you switch on the mics? There's a, so with very small, doing import clearance, because in India, that was only import at that time in 50s, We did the clearance, and then in 67, when the textile export started from India, we were the first company in Delhi who entered into that. In northern India, we were one of the first freight forwarders who got the custom license. Most of the companies were in Bombay because of the seaport. Delhi, because of there was no seaport, this business was not known to people. So my father, since he started his career with the bank, he learned the knowledge of letter of credits and all. So that's how we started this company. He started the company in 57 as an import custom clearance agent. And in 67, when the export started, we were the ones who picked up and who joined, who started handling export cargo, whether by air as well as by sea. And from there, from 70s till I'll say 90s, we were in the top 3 agents all over India. We handled the complete airports at the airport, Delhi airport, from 79 to 86. I joined my father after finishing my graduation from Shriram College in 1975. Now, when I joined the company, I was in double mood, whether I should join the family business or start something else. But then my father called me one day and he said, Vipin, come and sit with me. And then he told me about the company, about this trade. Of course, in the family, we knew what he's talking about. So he said, even if you start something else from scratch, now we are doing, we have started doing well, although we had only one branch. Why don't you join the family business? And he said, family business, 1 and 1 makes 11, not 2 in the family, in the logistic business especially. So that's how I joined in 75. And the first thing he told me, Vipin, go and sit on each and every chair and then come and sit on my chair. So, he said, you should know what these guys are doing so that you should have practical knowledge of everything. Then you come and sit on my chair. And it took me, I tell you, 2.5 years before I went and sat on his chair. So I've made my own shipping bill with my hands. I went to the airport for doing clearance. I've made shipping bill, airway bills, gone to the customers. So I took knowledge of every subject. Now, let me tell you, this is such an interesting job, interesting field. Today, even my sons, both the sons, I also gave them the same choice. And I said, if you want to start anything else, you're most welcome. but they both decided to join the family business only because there are so much new things happening in this our business. It's a growing business. Every day it's growing. Now there are various fields in our business. Whether you want to start your career, the new student, whether you want to start your career in sales, whether you want to start your career in operations, whether want to start in customer service, whether you want to call in warehousing, so, and then even at the clearance and customs, import clearance and all, which is a specialized job. So there are so many angles. It depends on your interest, what exactly you're looking at. Whether your mind goes that, okay, I want to do sales, I want to do operations, I want to do accounts, I want to do this. So our business is such that it has got all the options for you. The logistic business, it is up to you what you decide, how you want to do it. Now, one thing I want to make it very clear to you here is that it's the business where you can't be half-heartedly doing it. Either you are there fully 100% in it, because half-heartedly this business, then you should not enter into this business at all, because every day there are new issues coming up in this business. उसका shipment नहीं हुआ, उसका custom में ये problem हो गया, उसका ये हो गया. So every day you have to face a new challenge. It's not like कि सुबह 10 बजे आए ऑफिस, डब्बा लेके और खाना खाया, 1 बजे लंच, 2 बजे वो, 5 बजे घर चले गए. No, there are days when the staff is sitting till 10 o'clock in the night working. So that's what I'm telling you. If you really want to be in the logistic industry, it's a very, very interesting industry. You get a lot of opportunities to grow in this industry. You have a lot of opportunities to travel, see around the world, meet different people, meet airlines, meet buyers, meet exporters. Everybody, it's accessible, to you. But the only thing is how much interest you personally take yourself. If you say कि जी वो मेरे को तो सिर्फ सुबह आना है और शाम को जाना है, sorry, then my recommendation to you is do not join this business, please. Then you are nowhere. This business is such that you have to face challenge every day, new challenges, new things come up every day. So this is what it is. Now, as far as this, things are concerned, as I told you, different fields are there in our business. You can be a sales. If you are good in sales, you can start doing sales. If you are good in operations, yes, there is opportunities, lot of opportunities in operations. There are, like accounts. There are a lot of, opportunities in accounts. There are, warehousing and all. Now, other thing is, in the last 50 years, the changes which we have seen is, about few years back, everything was manual. सब कुछ हाथ से, shipping will भी हाथ से बन रहा है, एक को typewriter से airway bill type हो रहा है. All those things, people are going to the airport for doing custom clearance. Everything is manual. Over a period of time now, slowly, steadily, 95, the customs, came on the computer system. But still, I'll say things did not change. From the last 10 years, they were the same, like they were using it as a typewriter. And thanks to this COVID-19, I must say, the customs have changed drastically. Now they have started doing faceless customs, e-Sanchit, RMS, all those new systems. The ones which we decided, we were after the customs, we were after the government, to implement these things. We are not getting proper, EDI, we are not using it properly. And they were not, hearing about it. But in these last 4 months after this COVID thing, everything, whatever we said about 5 years back or 7 years back, they have listened to it and they have implemented it. To be very honest with you, the way we are doing in the next 2 to 3 months, we will be as good as any European countries, where sitting in our office, we'll be able to do the custom clearance, we'll be able to do, take out our goods. Everything will be, done through the systems. So that is a lot of change which is happening. Previously there were, if you want to get the one shipment cleared, there were more than 40 signatures required on the documents from the custom official, from the other official, all those things. Today there are only 2, 3, but that also are going now. So these are the changes which is happening. So one thing is very important. If you really want to come into this logistic business now, you should have thorough knowledge about the systems on the computer system. because most of the things are now being done on the computers. Those days have gone when everything was done manually, and everything used to be happening manually. But today, I'll say we have reached to a stage where 80% of the things are being done, through the systems. So one thing is very important. If you want to come into this line, you must have thorough knowledge about the IT or the basic knowledge of working on the computers. I don't say you have to be expert or you have to be expert in the systems, but you must have some at least basic knowledge, working knowledge on the systems. That is very, very important, because even in my company, if I'm hiring anyone, the first thing is, do you know computers? If you don't know, sorry, you know, we're not looking at those people. So that is very important for you to know that these are the now new way of doing business. Plus, I tell you, we got so much of appreciation, all of us, in our trade logistic industry, like, doctors and, other nurses, they were called the warriors in this COVID period. Now, we were also called warriors because, I tell you, it was logistic people only who got the country running. In the first 1 week, all the trucks, they got stopped. There was no movement of trucks. Now think, if trucks stop working, how you are going to get your perishables, how you are getting to your necessities, how you are getting. There were groups made by Secretary Logistics. I was also part of all these groups. They made a group. Anybody having any issues, our staff didn't have passes, so we had to apply for the passes with the custom license. People who are having custom license, they got the passes. Our people were going to the airport even from first week of the lockdown, because there were medical supplies coming from China, from all over the world. You know, there were no PP kits, there were no thermometers, there were nothing. So it was our trade only, logistic business only, which kept on moving even during the COVID period. And we were the ones. And I tell you, the government has recognized that this is the very, very important, link between the shipper, exporter, importer, all those things. And even today, now, the way the government is looking at Make in India and all those new things, I tell you, we have a bright future. I am very optimistic. In the next 2 to 3 years, this business is going to boom. As it is, if textiles is down, pharma is up. Pharma, we are doing very good in the pharma right now, exports, whether it's air or anything. We are doing very good in the auto industries. There are more and more industries coming up. I just moved, last week, a 747 charter for some big company in US. The second charter is leaving next week. So this is an opportunity for some people, but some people are, not doing good because they don't want to move out. They, even at this period, they're sitting at home as if the business will come of their own. No, you have to move. You have to always be pushy. You have to keep moving. Business is there. It is how you want to cash it. So I'm always very positive, very open. This business, as far as I'm concerned, excellent business. You'll have all the good opportunities to travel, do business, everything, and then lot of opportunities also. You can be an entrepreneur very soon also. You start a job in some company, do the working, learn the system. You don't require crores of rupees of capital. You just require computer, and telephone and your contacts, and good, sales activities and operations. And you can start your own company also. Let me tell you, today, Continental, when I sometimes feel proud. There are more than 500 companies, CEOs or the individual companies who are running with ex-Continental staff. Sometimes you feel so good, when you go outside and they come, even who are even elder to you, they come and touch your feet. And they are doing all so well in their life. So it's an opportunity for you also to become an entrepreneur also of your own. Because this doesn't require much capital at all. You just require that telephone, computer and all those things. So it's a great opportunity. I tell you, whoever wants to come in this line, you will love it. Only thing I'm telling you, you have to give 100% of yours. Don't think वो सुस्ती से काम होगा, बैग लेके जाऊंगा, जाके शाम को फिर भैया इस धंधे में नहीं आओ. There are so many other businesses or other things, because you have to face challenges every day. Captain Saab is there. He will give you much more guidance. I have told you about our experience, and then Steve Lakharaju also will let you know about this trade, how it works, and all those things. So, boys and girls, go ahead. This is an excellent line. You will enjoy it. Thank you, sir. Anything else you want to know? Shrikant ji?
Sir, you're muted.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. We'll come back to you later on with some more
No
questions.
problem.
But thank you very much for helping us understand. And of course, like other industries, we are aware that even for the banking industry to continue working, in Telangana itself, 30,000 laptops were shipped across on the first day itself. So,
Right.
of course, logistics plays a key part. And thank you for being there and the logistics industry people for supporting all the doctors and everyone else also. Thank you. So, Satish, since Mr. Vipin mentioned your name, so Satish Garu, why don't you introduce yourself, your organization to us? If you could unmute yourself.
Yeah, I am unmuted. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. So, very good afternoon. Namaskar. Assalamu alaikum for all those in Hyderabad. And unfortunately, I'm speaking from Delhi, but I would have loved to be in Hyderabad, the place I was born and from where I started my career in logistics. So, very close to your office in Prakash Nagar in Begumpet, that's where the logistics industry or the airport operations used to happen many years ago. Then I left Hyderabad after a few years there. But just to tell all the people who are on this webinar that I represent an organization called Agility. Agility is a global logistics company with presence in more than 100 countries. We are currently at 26,000 employees, and in India, in our GIL or Global Integrated Logistics, we directly employ 600 plus people. We have around 43 warehouses spread across India, a large amount of warehousing space that we do, and we do represent many verticals across. So that's briefly about what Agility does, and to be more precise. But like many people in the industry, I came very accidentally into an industry. Like a young kid, everyone wants to become a doctor or an engineer because your Indian universities don't call someone as a supply chain professional as of today. So while you have 821 universities in the country under central, state, and deemed and private universities, but when I came into the industry, there was no supply chain course that existed per se really. So in 1992, I ultimately did my MBA in supply chain from the Narsimhanji University in Mumbai. That was probably one of the first batches. But even if you look today in India, we don't have absolute supply chain institutions, unfortunately. I wrote syllabus to one of the universities when I moved into Delhi way back in 2002 for an MBA institution in Noida. So why I'm giving you all a background is that while today, if you want your morning tea or anything, the logistics industry is the one which is the backbone to the whole industry. And in the oldest professions, logistics is one among them. And today, if that industry has not got its due recognition in the country, there are multiple reasons for it, which we can discuss during the day. But I think it's one of the most exciting industries in the world. I've been a lawyer, I've been a head of HR, I've done multiple professions. I've handled IR and union, but what I enjoy most is like what Vipinji mentioned, is that the passion and enthusiasm that is there in the people in the logistics industry is the best. For a reason is that there's never been a day when you go unfulfilling or thinking that you have not learned anything. You never feel that the job is an 8 to 5 job. You come to the office and you continue to learn every day. So I think I'm quite excited to be in this industry for quite some time. I've been the founder of the Akai at Hyderabad when no one knew what was Air Cargo Agents Association. Only Vipinji knew that time in Delhi about Akai, and then I was the founder of the Air Cargo Club in Hyderabad as well, in Prakash Nagar. So I've been fortunate that in Telangana, now I'm currently the FTTCCI's advisor as well. So Hyderabad has a great potential for logistics and the colleges that are now currently there, which I'll probably discuss a little later when you have questions from the other members as well. Thank you, Srikant.
Thank you, Satish Garu. So, since you spoke about supply chain, I think let's hear from the expert himself. So, Major General Krishnan, over to you. If you could introduce yourself and the organizations that you mentor and support.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon to all of you. At the outset, I would like to thank Mr. Srikant Sinha, the CEO of Task, for giving me an opportunity to be part of this event. And I'm also going to share virtual space with a panel consisting of such esteemed and experienced professionals. So it's going to be a good learning experience for me as well. Task is doing really a wonderful job in enhancing professional literacy and the skills required for various industries. Now, as for me, I was commissioned into the Army Ordnance Corps way back in 1977. Now, the Army Ordnance Corps is one of the logistics services of the Indian Army, and we are soldier logisticians. We are first soldiers, then logisticians. So I was in the Army Ordnance Corps, which handles about 500,000 items for the 1.3 million strong Indian Army. Now, we have a very large inventory base, right from ammunition, various types of weapons like the small round or the carbine or the pistol, to the big Bofors guns. Our inventory also includes tanks, vehicles, bridging equipment, the spare parts and accessories for these equipment, clothing necessary for soldiers, things, camp equipment like cooking utensils, tentage items, and you name it, and we had to provide it. Now, looking at the geographic spread, we all know the geopolitical situation in the region. So the mandate of the Indian Army, as far as national security is concerned, they are deployed across the country in various terrains, like the Siachen Glacier, which is the world's highest battlefield, to the mountains of Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, the jungles of the Northeast, the deserts of Rajasthan, and the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Now, I'm grateful to Task for labeling me as an expert in supply management, but I differ a little on this. I had the opportunity to do a large number of courses on the subject in India and abroad, and while commanding a logistics unit in the Kashmir Valley in 1999 during the Kargil War, my unit, that is my team, we had the honor and the responsibility of ensuring that the frontline troops got what they want to throw out the Pakistani infiltrators. Now, that was a very, I would say that was a very proud moment. Every soldier looks for such opportunities, and it was a very huge challenge. Now, my last assignment was at the Eastern Command headquarters at Kolkata, where the departmental head of Ordnance Logistics, and we had to cater to the Army's requirements in West Bengal, Sikkim, and the 7 northeastern states right in the border, the sea, and so on. Now, during my service of over 35 years, I found that no two situations are similar, no two terrains, geographical terrains are similar. While we do have templates, but we cannot really apply one template on the other expecting results to come. Like my predecessors who have just Mr. Vipin Vora and Mr. Satish Lakraju have said, logistics very dynamic field. Things keep changing, And logistics of ammunition supply is very much different from the logistics of providing clothing. Logistics of providing spare parts for electronic equipment is different from logistics of, let us say, providing tents, vehicle spares. So the logistic template is different for different categories of stores, as it is there in the industry as well, in the outside civil industry. Similarly, the logistics for a dirt is much different than what we would apply in the jungles. So the challenges as far as strategic sourcing is concerned, warehousing, distribution. Today we talk about last mile delivery, and Amazon asks you for a PIN code. But can anybody give the PIN code of a very remote post on the LAC? But you have to deliver. So this challenge has been there with the Indian Army for decades. We also have the challenge of customer relationship management, because all the frontline troops are our customers. We don't treat them as just another soldiering unit. We treat them as customers, and CRM is an integral part of the supply chain in the army. So with so much diversity of the equipment profile, the geographical spread, the requirements, the need to ensure economy, timely deliveries, I cannot really say that I became an expert at any point of this service. But I did try to be a better logistician than I was yesterday. That is the challenge even today for the young professionals. You have to improve upon what you were yesterday and then move on ahead. At no point in time can you just rest. As an example, I was reading an article by the Harvard Business School that the sales, online sales on Amazon, they have been found to be dipping because they took everything for granted. Making Prime members, but telling them we'll deliver only after a week or 10 days, not in supply, and so on and so forth. So the dynamism of customer preferences and changes that situations bring, such as COVID-19, this has to be read by the supply chain professionals. Now, it may be a last mile delivery, but now we are talking about contactless delivery. But you have to deliver. So the expectations of the customers change, but in a good way. Now, after retirement, I have devoted my time to sharing my experience with students of MBA and postgraduate diploma in management students. And uh, I currently am a visiting faculty at Vishweshwarani Institute of Systems and Management at Hyderabad. And I also am a resource person for task. I share my experiences with these management students, and I attend national and international seminar. In 2017, I was invited to speak at a seminar in Colombo, and that was about sustainability and SCM. That is be another niche area where our professionals will have to focus on sustainability. Now, what I would like to tell young professionals is that the Indian Army taught me that you can achieve logistic success only by extensive knowledge of the customer. For me, it was the soldiers. And let me tell you, the principles of supply chain management are the same whether you're applying it in civil, the armed forces, the police, or the healthcare. The principles, I'm saying. Method may be different. Now you have to know the customer, your suppliers, the risk centers or in the supply chain, so that you can take adequate measures. Then you have to work with cross-functional teams, HR, finance. You cannot just blow the budget on your logistics. In India, it's about 14 to 15% of the GDP, logistics costs. Some of the advanced countries, it is in single digit. And that's why the government of India has introduced logistics department in the Ministry of Commerce and Industry in 2017, and it's a focus area. Even with the government of Telangana, it's one of the 14 focus areas. And we found the Honorable Minister of Industries and IT, Sri K.T. Ramarao Garuji. He had inaugurated one of the logistics parks last year. So it's going to be a growth area, but it's a very dynamic field. And in managing a supply chain, as I said earlier, you can only try to be better today than what you were yesterday. And like Mr. Vipin Vora said, you have to have a passion. You cannot take anything for granted or leave it to chance. Your competitors will overtake you, and you have to understand. Now, the gray areas, as far as I know, are the warehousing industry, the cold chain, value added services like packaging, labeling, last delivery, customer relationship management, that was also spoken of by Vora and Mr. Lakraju,
Yes.
and transportation. Now, transportation is audited, and it's much of the transportation in India is in the unorganized sector. So you have a lot of potential in this with the freight corridors and all coming up, the infrastructure. This industry, which is pegged at about 4.3 to 4.4 trillion dollars globally, India is on the growth path, and it holds a lot of potential. Thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you, Major General Krishnan. Interesting comments. And in fact, it's a different story, but I was stuck up during the 1999 Kargil war in Srinagar itself at that time. So, anyway, congratulations on your receiving the Vishish Seva Medal for your role played in the logistics over there at that time. Honor to have you here with us. Moving on to you, Rohan. If you could introduce yourself, your organization, and your role. Chief Transformation and Strategy Officer.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. It's an honor to be a part of such an esteemed panel. It's always a privilege to speak with esteemed faculty members and young bright students. Thanks to Mr. Shinak for inviting me to this panel. At the outset, I must call out that I'm the youngest on this panel, and therefore, while I will enjoy interacting with the students and the faculty, there'll be a lot of learnings that I'm taking back from the esteemed panelists also. Thank you so much for that. A very quick introduction. I'm a part of the organization called All Cargo Logistics Limited. We are a listed logistics company. As we stand today, we are the largest integrated logistics company in the country by revenue. Today, after the acquisition of a company called Gati, which is headquartered in Hyderabad, incidentally, our consolidated revenue is in the range of about 10,000 crores, which is by far the largest in the country. It's an honor for me to be a part of such an organization. We have multiple business units within India and outside India. I'm not going to spend too much time in discussing those individual business units, but suffice to say that we currently have operations in almost every country of the world. We would have our own offices, our own teams across almost 100 plus countries in the world. In India, we run a gamut of different operations, right from exim to domestic to transportation to warehousing. Very briefly, since I'm talking to faculties and student members, I'm a civil engineer by profession. I've done my engineering from Punjab Engineering College, Chandigarh, and post that I've done my MBA from IIM Lucknow. Out of my total corporate career for almost 14 years, almost 13 years have been spent in logistics, except for the first year that I spent in banking, and I found it a bit monotonous. No offense to any bankers. But I always was attracted by the rhythm or the action, as I can call it, in the logistics sector, right, from early on. And that's when I decided, when almost none of my peers were venturing into logistics, that's when I decided that I'll create a career in logistics sector, and I think that's the best decision that I ever took. I would encourage every student to find out more about how the sector works. There are multiple subsectors. Some might sound appealing, some might not sound appealing, but there are multiple subsectors. I believe there's something in it for almost everybody. A special shout out to the young women that we have in the audience, right? Today we don't have a female panelist, but I'm sure in the next session, whenever we do that, we'll have a female panelist. I think the diversity has been an important subject matter for logistics companies for quite some time. Incidentally, yesterday I was reading something on Gartner, and Gartner has mentioned that today globally, 17% of chief supply chain officers are women. Okay, this number used to be a single digit 10 years ago. So increasingly the diversity is changing, and therefore my shout out is not just to the male audience but also to the female audience. Logistics is a good destination for everybody, right? Irrespective of any gender, etc. That's in a very short introduction. Over to you, Mr. Sinha.
Thank you, Brohan. Pleasure to have you with us. Moving on to Captain Ramanujam now, who is a veteran himself from the Army, and of course he heads the Logistics Skills Council. Over to you, Captain.
Thank you, Mr. Shrikant, and always a pleasure to be with you. Task has been doing an immensely great, very good kind of a webinar on career choices for candidates. And I think that's very appropriate because nowadays there are so many options and the candidate is really left quite confused with this information overload. But I'll try to put it a little simply. As Mr. Vipin Vora said, and I think he quoted from Martin Luther King. I mean, this is a WhatsApp thing. This is a day which is just coming. Martin Luther King said, fly. And if you can't fly, then run. And if you can't run, then move. And that's what I think Mr. Vipin Vora said. You must always be on the move, right? This is not a place for sitting. Then one smart Punjabi came in. That's all fine. But what is the destination? So the destination now, you got the answer where you should go. So logistics is so far has not been a career of choice. Let me put that fact up across. It was, but however, things are changing. Now, I will also try to address what Mr. Shrikant had put on in his question. Which are the sectors that are there in logistics? Now, logistics is a horizontal activity. It cuts across multiple sectors, and we have classified it under 12 subsectors. Anything to do with storage, distribution, and transportation. I repeat for the sake of the students, storage, distribution, and transportation, all this comes under logistics. So you have 12 subsectors. The first is warehousing. Now, warehousing is, it is no longer what it used to be. In the olden days, somebody had some land, it was fallow, not cultivable. So therefore, you put a godown and then you took the rent on some whatever was put out there inside. It is no longer that. Warehouse, as General Krishnan brought out, is a place of value-added activity where where the value of the product is enhanced by way of packaging, by way of labeling, by way of even assembling, and so on and so forth. So that the warehouse itself becomes a kind of a profit center in terms of what the value addition it is that does for the product. Along with that comes the labeling and storage and packaging. Then you have the land transportation. In these difficult COVID times, had it not been for the transport sector, none of us would have got essential supplies home, as Mr. Vora brought out. So transportation is, you can say, the engine of our economy. 60 to 70% cargo which moves across in the country goes on through road. So it's as important as that. The third is the cold chain. This is a huge sector of opportunity for young engineers. Cold chain in India, the amount of wastage is enough to feed a full country like England. That is the kind of losses that go into this food products. So we need to work on this cold chain. Then you have, of course, who doesn't know about Amazon or Flipkart or any of this? These are companies of huge growth, e-commerce companies. And along with them is the courier industry, which has been having a 15% cumulative annual growth average. And e-commerce and courier kind of get clubbed together, but they are distinct kind of subsectors. Then you have the port terminals, ICDs, container freight stations. More than 90% in terms of volume and 70% in terms of value of cargo flows in by sea. Then you have the air cargo, which Mr. Satish Raju and Mr. Bipin Gora represent, not so much in volume, but huge in terms of value. In fact, overall it's just 1 to 2% in terms of volume, but in terms of value, it's almost 40%. So you can imagine the kind of high value, time sensitive cargo that flows through this, through the airports. In fact, had it not been for the great amount of cargo that came in through these airports during the COVID times, many of us would not have been having essential medicines which are needed for patients. Then you have sectors such as the freight forwarders, who are the direct connect between the shipper and the transporter, the exporter and the importer. Also, the customs comes in there, and customs, as Mr. Vora had said, now it's mostly digitized. It's a paperless exercise. Then you have other niche segments such as the inland waterways, which so far has not been exploited, but now it is coming into being, and both National Waterway 1 and 2, when interconnected, can give you an export through Bangladesh. So this is a huge opportunity that waits for us to enhance our export. Then you have the liquid logistics, which is a whole lot of chemicals which come in, and they need to be brought into the country, stored and shipped across. So this is another important sector. Then who does not know about rail logistics? And this becomes important because there's a lot of privatization which is happening, not only on the cargo. You might have heard about the Concor being divested, but also you have passenger routes like Delhi Lucknow is a private route now. So that is again an opportunity for young students. So there are 12 subsectors, and all of these sectors are sectors of opportunity. The major employment happens in warehousing, land transportation, and e-commerce and courier. And I forgot about one very important subsector, which is the supply chain for manufacturing. Most of you would think that manufacturing is all about a technical kind of a thing. It is not so. Most of the manufacturing plants are automated. Whether you look at Hyundai or you look at Ford or you look at any of the car manufacturers or you look at the mobile manufacturers, say Foxconn, Flextronics, Rising Star, you name them all, most of the assembly lines are automated, and 80% or of the almost 50% of the workforce are in logistics functions, which is inbound, in-plant and outbound logistics. So you realize now the length and the spectrum of logistics activity which cuts across multiple sectors. So it becomes a huge sector of opportunity. The sector employs 12 million workforce as of date, and if you include the people transportation segment, it goes up to about 22 million people. Most of you would think that this logistics sector is a dumb man's game. It is not so. As was very rightly brought out, by Mr. Vora as well as Mr. Lakraju. There are three things which are the essentials. One, technology. You might be surprised to know that e-commerce companies have more data analysts, have more data scientists than any of your manufacturing companies. I won't name the company, medium-sized company in Delhi in e-commerce, last mile first collection, long haul as well as last mile delivery, employs 80 such candidates in their own company branch in Delhi. So it's all become a tech company. You talk about Swiggy. What is Swiggy? Swiggy is nothing but a tech company. It may be delivering food, but it could be delivering anything. But it is finally a tech company which links up the supplier with a customer, does the optimization, the routing, and who should take what where. This entire thing is done by a technology. And as Mr. Vora said, 99% of this industry is all private enterprise. If you want to be an entrepreneur, this is the sector for you. If you don't want to, if you want to be a job giver rather than a job taker, this is the sector for you. If you don't want to be remaining answerable to somebody else, this is the sector for you. And third is you are a vital link between multiple sectors. So in essence, you get a phenomenal amount of exposure. You have, in our panel itself, you have a civil engineer, commerce person, you have a technical person, all are working on the same logistics sector. So there is always, as somebody said, there's something for everybody in this particular sector. One more aspect of this is we have now started multiple programs in the logistics area. I suppose more about that in a later question as to what are the opportunities and how students can get into this logistics sector will be a question which I will take on in the next round. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Captain Ramanujan. Of course, Captain is also a decorated personnel. He was with the Indian Navy and he's been awarded the Nausena Medal. Thank you, Captain. That was interesting. But since, as they say, right, the person who holds the mic gets the right to talk. So I'm going to ask you the next question also, which is you've spoken about all these various areas in the logistics sector itself. So what are the skill gaps that are existing in the logistics and the SCM sector itself, if you can help us understand that?
Yeah. As regards skill gap, now this is a sector where it's all been till date experiential learning. So therefore, there has been quite a lot of gap in terms of the skills sets. For 70 years, this has been a sector where there has been no structured kind of training or education. There has been no ITI, no polytechnic, no higher educational institution which has been running the any program. So with the net result is that there has been quite a bit of skill deficit in this particular sector. The Sector Skill Council itself got created in 2015, and we have gone about correcting this whole process of this gap. We have now created the trades and all that. But if you look at the gap, I would think you got just about in almost most of the sectors, there is enough scope for improving efficiency, enough scope for optimization of assets, and enough scope for increasing productivity. Let me just give you one small example. Now, warehouses now have just been designed as a large area. It has not been designed for the kind of process they need to undertake. With the net result, there has been kind of inefficiencies. If you just have to just ask a shift, how would you do the picking? Whether should you do it by zone-wise picking, or should you do it by batch-based picking, or whether you should do wave-based picking? I'm sure many of them, or the work I am talking about, the supervisory cadre and below, they may not know. So this is the lack of skills. So there is a tremendous amount of potential. our council has trained about 1.5 lakh last year, and we have placed 60% of them. Almost 1 lakh of them have got jobs. And as I said, warehousing is post the GST has been a huge potential for employment.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, in the benefit, the 700 odd participants who have already logged in by now, I would also like you to help us understand what kind of courses that you do under Logistics Sector Skills Council to help minimize these gaps also.
Perfect. So this is up my alley, as they say. Now, in this 12 subsectors, the Europe, just to give you an idea of what it was and what it is, European Union did a study in the state of Tamil Nadu in 4 subsectors: warehousing, land transportation, courier, and port terminals. They interviewed 350 companies, and the number of jobs that they came up with, 760 jobs. So can you imagine somebody with the same kind of entry profile was given some other kind of a job, or somebody doing the same kind of a job came with a different kind of an entry profile, and thereafter what was his career progression? Nothing was known. Somebody who's been in Chennai had more opportunity, possibly grew up. Somebody in Madurai who does not have much, possibly stayed as at a lesser level. So it was quite chaotic. Now we have rationalized it and created it into 78 job roles. These are available for short-term training and immediate employment. And this is what I said, we employed 1 lakh candidates like that after the short-term training. Now going forward, then we have been advocating apprenticeship as the route for skilled human resource. And this is how all my colleagues from the industry would vouch for. This is indeed the way candidates can equip themselves with experiential skills and make themselves more employable. So we started advocating apprenticeships, and now, in fact, it is mandatory for all companies to have 2.5% of their manpower as apprentices. And right now, I'm happy to report 350 companies are enrolled as employers, and we have over 6,000 odd apprentices in logistics across the country. Thereafter, we decided that this is a sector which has enough of knowledge and skills and, of course, attitude required in equal measure. So we started launching logistics in higher educational institutions, and we launched a BBA logistics. And for this, I will give the example of a girl from Sri Krishna College of Arts in Coimbatore. She's finished. They've all finished the first semester. The odd semester is in the college. The even semester, these candidates are apprenticed in the companies. So this girl was, and the fee structure also we have stipulated will be 1 lakh per annum and not more. And this girl was then apprenticed in one of the freight forwarding companies and was earning a stipend of 15,000 rupees. So you could just imagine, your payout is 1 lakh and you're getting 90,000 back. So in fact, the particular college was charging 70,000. So 90,000 she was getting. In fact, she was being paid 20,000 rupees more for doing this particular program of BBA logistics. So what I'm trying to say is this earn while you learn has given the students tremendous amount of confidence. We just did a webinar with the students. They are now talking logistics language. There's a sense of pride that they know the job. That pride has given them a sense of recognition. 2 months after this, one of the boys came up and said, I got the best employee certificate in the first month of apprenticeship. Have you ever heard of somebody in 1 month's time getting a best employer award? So these are some positive, good stories of the degree apprenticeship. Now we have launched the degree apprenticeship in 6 streams. That is agri-storage and supply chain, aviation services and air cargo, maritime logistics, e-commerce, exim and express, and land transportation. And Mr. Mittal was talking about gender sensitization. There is a university run by a monk. Sharanbaswa University in Kalaburgi in near Mangalore has just started BMS Aviation only for girls. And in fact, right now in our own degree apprenticeship programs, 20% of them are girls. And in fact, a bunch of girls from Government College Rajamundry went and worked in UP and stayed on during the COVID time and continued to work in the warehouse. So such very, very motivating stories have emerged from these degree apprenticeship programs. And this, I'm sure, for the students to take it up. In fact, the Rajiv Gandhi National Aeronautical University, which is a government university in Amethi, has just launched the BMS Aviation Services and Air Cargo, where the Logistics Skill Council will be running it on a turnkey basis. And similarly, we're going to run in the maritime logistics also in Cochin. So the opportunity for the students who are passing out are phenomenal. I think I'm sure Mr. Lakraju and Vipin Vora wouldn't mind turning back the clock to go back to these kind of colleges, and so that they would have learnt it much before they started their profession. So this is an opportunity that we're giving to the students, and vocational training in logistics is going to be the thing for the future in the higher educational institutions. Some students may ask, what is in it for me after this? So what we are planning is, we are planning postgraduate programs which are on a transnational basis with industry bodies abroad. So in fact, we have just finished one dialogue with one of the French companies for the cold chain, and similarly we'll be working with others, so that there is a students can take up a postgraduate program also and further their career. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Ramjan. That was very interesting and I think very informative for all our 700 plus participants. Vora Sahab, I'm moving back to you. And though you have already spoken about what kind of job the freshers can expect, in the logistics sector, and we have heard about the various roles, which Captain spoke about. If you could help me understand what kind of jobs can freshers expect in this present condition post the pandemic or during the pandemic. If you throw some light on that. The second thing is, sir, I would also like to ask you, given your vast experience and your specialization towards air cargo and logistics, what kind of skills, certifications, or qualifications do students require to be in the air cargo and logistics industry?
Let me tell you the first question which you ask, what is there for the new students in this sector. I tell you, there is tremendous amount of scope even for the new students who have just passed out, maybe a high school or even graduation. There is tremendous amount of scope even now in the logistic industry, because this is one industry which is really going to grow like anything. Because the more and more foreign companies are coming into India, they're putting up their factories into India. There's going to be a lot of exports, going from India, and imports coming into India. So there is tremendous amount of scope for the youngsters to come into this line. As I explained to you earlier, it depends upon the students what they are actually looking at. Now there are certain people who do not want to be in sales. They don't want to go out. It is their own, this thing. Some or the other, when I interview some people, when they come for interview, I ask them, what is your interest? And the question is, sir, I don't want to go out in the market. I want to be in the office. Now, when you are in the office, you're only going to get operations or something, like that. So it depends on the student, what type of career he's looking at. And, if you ask yourself, whether you're good at sales, whether you're good at operations, whether you're good at, communication, customer service, or whatever it is. So those things are very, very important. As far as the companies are concerned, logistic companies are concerned, we have openings for all the, all the fields. Like I tell you, as far as my company is concerned, I was the one who brought almost 5 or 6 big multinationals into India. They all wanted to buy me. I didn't sell my company at all. I said, no, I'm very happy. I'm doing, companies like Bax Global and all those big names worldwide. They all came and they wanted to buy us. We never sold our company because we want to run this company ourselves. Plus, the other thing is that today also there is tremendous amount of scope for the new young people to join the state. As Mr. Captain has said that they are now. Previously, what we were doing is we were hiring people from the BCom or other no experience in the logistic industry. They had no knowledge about anything, and we used to train in our company. Every year, we used to hire 5 or 6 new young MBA students from different universities, private universities, give them training, and then put them into, different fields, whether they want to go into sales or anything. But there were a lot of people who, we hired, and within 3 months they left because, some opted for outside job in the operations. Now, operations at ports and airports is a very difficult job because sometimes you have to work under, without air conditioner, without anything and all. And these guys, they're sorry, this is not our cup of tea. But, like this, it happens. It's a personal choice. But there is opportunity in all the fields, There are, there is tremendous amount of future in this. It is how much interest you take, in your job. We have. I give you my company's experience. I have now almost 19 offices all over India. I have an office in Hyderabad also, Bangalore, Madras, Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, Agra, Jaipur, Muradabad, all those cities. And our 80%, 75% business is air freight. We specialize into air freight exports and imports. Today, we are handling all the major companies like Maruti, Japanese company. We handle their import, export, all these things, companies like that. We still handle, these lot of aviation companies, their business. We handle, all these big customers. It is, because of our own strength. Although we are not multinational, but we are not less than any multinational. I treat, my company is better than multinational, in giving services. So similarly, it should be, what is your passion? Today, I tell you, there is, as far as young people are concerned, this is a very, very challenging line. This is a very good future they have, for the future in this line, logistics. Today, as the captain has said, there are people who are taking trainings and coming, there are courses like BBA and other, post-graduation courses which are coming up. I'm really grateful to Captain and his team. They are really training their people very well, But in the past, we used to train ourselves. There was no training, nothing. Young graduates, young people coming, even people like, high school also, they were also coming. We were hiring even that. Because sometimes you need a mixture, of people in our trade. So there is tremendous, even now there is tremendous amount of scope. People are most welcome. This is an excellent line, and I would recommend that if they are looking for a future, please go in for logistics. And as I said before, if you cannot give you 100%, then don't be in this line. Try to find some other job in some other thing, because it's a very challenging and very interesting line every day. And I give you just one example. We have a person in 67. My father hired him. In 1967, I think everybody knows in the industry. Mr. Sujit Singh. He joined us as a simple clerk of at that time in 67 for 100 rupees salary. And today he is the director of the company. He's with the company for almost like over 50 years. So that's amount of, because he has given everything to the company, day and night. He has not seen anywhere. If we had problem in Bombay, okay, Sujit, this is the problem. He said, I'll go. We have problem in Bangalore. He said, I'll go. And he used to sort it out. Today, although he's plus 70 now, but he's given so much of his whole life to the company. He's a director of the company. He's sitting in all the decision making things. So this is the amount of growth you can expect in these companies, in the logistic companies. That's what I think.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Bora. Now, moving on to you, Satish Garu, if you could help us understand with respect to Telangana state, what are the gaps in the logistics industry? That's the first question. The second part of it would be, how is the logistics industry as per you situation, and how are jobs in logistics changing during pandemic times?
Okay.
So three questions for you.
Perfect. So I will answer them in three different parts specifically. To first one to answer to you is in respect to the challenges that Telangana has been facing in terms of logistics.
Right.
Because if you go back to history and see Telangana being a landlocked state, never had the exposure to any seaport for historically any period that it is, and even going forward, you will not get a seaport because you don't have waterways that are connected. So your dependency was highly on accessing the ports in the neighboring states of Tamil Nadu, or now in the state of Andhra Pradesh and in the state of Mumbai, which is Maharashtra.
Right.
In a scenario like COVID today, when you have Maharashtra having the highest amount of COVID related issues, you are sitting on a risk that your state can have a blockade because of a situation. Fortunately, your current scenario with Andhra is good post the new government, but had it been in the prior government, probably the relationship were not the greatest. So you did not have the connectivity through Visakhapatnam or any other port, and neither that benefited. Chennai had issues with Karnataka, but at least Krishnapatnam is down in the bottom, which has its connectivity. But you will actually see that there is a need for the government to really build an corridor between these states to really expedite the movement of the traffic in the container movement. Because you are in a landlocked state, you are dependent on a few inland containers depots like the one in Batco or the ICD Sanat Nagar, or if you look at it, the other one which is controlled by DP World, which is towards the Shadnagar side. So this is the first challenge that you have. The second challenge that you currently have with Telangana is that it's highly dependent on one vertical, which is the pharmaceutical vertical. Your exports are highly dependent, or you had the IT industry which did software exports under the STPA Act, which was not physical movement of the goods. So you never attracted other manufacturing. You don't have a single automotive industry in the state of Telangana, unfortunately. You see, so that is one. Two, you did not have the white goods industry either coming into the state of Telangana, even if you're sitting in the middle of Telangana, because the manufacturing of the white goods also happened. The LGs and the Samsungs also were sitting in either North India, or the carrier medias also were sitting in the northern state of it. So Telangana has been highly dependent. So that is one-sided of it, because for any logistics to be balanced and to be, you should have exim trade of import and exim coming in, so that the inventory of the containers can be available both for import and export. So today you don't have pharma grade imports coming into Hyderabad. So every container spends close to a lakh of rupees traveling from Maharashtra into the state of Hyderabad. So these are some broad, challenges that Telangana has been facing from the ocean and the air movement. In respect to air, if you actually see, we had the Hyderabad airport at Begumpet for many years, and we only had connectivity of Air India and Indian Airlines to Sharjah as well as to any other part of the world. The new airport came in, but it is highly dominated by the Middle East carriers. And today, when a carrier like Air India cannot carry the cargo because of security reasons to Chicago, and 33% of Hyderabad's cargo today travels to Area 1, which is USA. And the connectivity is that you are dependent on any hub, and you don't have a direct flight which connects Hyderabad's pharma to the US. So these are surely some challenges that we've been working with the government as well, but I think things are surely improving. But otherwise, the infrastructure in Hyderabad is definitely very, very good from a pharma standpoint of it. So that should answer your first part of the question in short and brief. Your second question was, how is the logistics industry probably evolving to cope to the pandemic situation, sort of a question, if I'm right, Shrikant?
Yes, Satish Garu.
Okay, correct. See, like what Vipinji mentioned or the other co-panelists mentioned it, logistics industry is probably one of the resilient industries in the world because your commodities keep changing, but the role of the logistic players remains dynamic every time it is. So today, a few years ago, if we were shipping cameras, today we are shipping mobile phones. If we were shipping a particular medicine during a particular vaccine, today we are shipping a new medicine for a particular vaccine. So cars keep changing, but the logistics service providers are constantly innovating it. And when the lockdown happened and everyone said that the world will come to a standstill, and if you see, there were no flights that were flying from the passenger side. But in no time, the airline industries and the logistics players and the airports got along and converted the passenger aircrafts into cargo aircrafts and started moving cargo even on the seats. So that is the type of innovation, which means no jobs were lost even during this particular period, which basically is that we were moving essential commodities, we were moving hand sanitizers, we were moving ventilators, we were moving medical equipment. And Hyderabad airport's cargo did not dip even during the whole period. So that is one part of it. It did have an impact, but I think it is not like other industries where you had to reduce jobs drastically. Uh, People had to take large salary cuts and the rest of them, but logistics industry has managed to do well in that respect. Now, since there are a lot of students, and your last question was how are the jobs in the logistics industry changing and the dynamics in the pandemic times? Uh, if you ask me, this is the right time for anyone to enter the logistics industry. If all other verticals are down, because do you want to be an air hostess today in Kingfisher Airlines or do you want to be working with Jet Airways is a call that sometimes people might have think was it the right decision or the wrong decision. But if you are working with a logistics firm today, you will be very happy that you may not have a glorified, ramp walk sort of a job, but you will get your salaries on the 30th of the month without default. You will be able to pay your EMIs. Your family will be happy. It is not a glorified job, but it is a job where you are not unhappy any day when you come to your job. It is fulfilling for sure, like I said in the starting. Uh, the good thing is people like Captain Ramanujam and the Logistics Skills Council are making every attempt to now put in more courses, but we are far, still in terms of getting to a global level with no criticism to anyone. But I think there is a need for every university who is here to understand that you should become someone like Consing. Look at the globe's best university. The Penn State University is the one which has the best supply chain college today in the world, and I've been there personally. And my son studies there, but he doesn't study supply chain. But I'm asking my second son at least to be looking at supply chain as a career surely. And I can tell you that this is the right time, and jobs are in the making for a reason. It will only be different. It will be more a digitalized job now because the era of contactless, which basically means all your bookings will turn to be online. You will have to be upgrading your skill because if you don't upgrade your skills to the current level, then you may run out of jobs. So these are some of my inputs to you, Srikant.
Great. Thank you very much, Satish Garu. They're very helpful. I would once again like to remind all the participants, the students, etc., to please put your questions in the chat box, in the question box, so that once our discussion is finished, we are able to take up those questions. So please keep on sending those questions. I'm sure a lot of questions would have been answered by the panelists, but there must be some more questions in your mind. So please keep on putting down the questions. Are you there?
Hi, am I audible?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, you are, but we can't see you. So the next question goes to you. Since we spoke about 2019, the logistics park coming up, and a huge multimodal logistic park project that is being planned in Telangana itself, close to Hyderabad itself. How do you think can colleges take advantage of this development and help their students skill up jobs? Second part of this question would be, Is it possible actually, because Satish Garu also spoke about, the contact-free economic system. So do you think it is possible to have a contact-free system in logistics industry? And what do you think is the way forward for the industry?
Sure. I'll try and answer those questions, Shrikant. Yeah, as far as the logistics hub that are coming up in Hyderabad, uh, I must mention that we are developing, in fact, one of the biggest logistics parks in Hyderabad. This is in a location called Naglapalli, Shankarpalli area, towards the uh, western side of Hyderabad.
Yes.
It's a 33-acre land parcel, and we're developing a state-of-the-art Grade A set of warehouses that will be leased by e-commerce companies to run as fulfillment centers for the consumption that is happening in Hyderabad region. So we are fairly well versed. Personally, we think that the potential that Hyderabad enjoys is significantly higher than what the current warehousing cluster or the logistics hubs have been able to offer. And this is only the tip of the iceberg. All right. We think that Hyderabad today was nominated as one of the fastest growing cities in the world, actually. It's counted in the top 6 cities of the
Correct.
country in terms of GDP. World Economic Forum in 2019 had called out Hyderabad as one of the 10 fastest growing cities in the world, right? Uh, Hyderabad enjoys a literacy ratio which is higher than the average of India. It's a young cosmopolitan population. I think the potential is way, way more than what is being serviced right now. And with the right initiatives from the government, which are happening, we think that the opportunities are only going to increase from where we are today. And we as a company are, in fact, consciously scrutinizing such opportunities as and when they come by. As far as the skill set that the students can look forward to, I think the first and foremost thing, and part of this is coming from my personal learning curve. The first and foremost thing is that most of the students would never have even seen the inside of a warehouse during their academic life. I did not. I had not. I'll be very honest. I had not seen the inside of a warehouse during my academic life. I think it's very important for the students to get acquainted with how a warehouse works. What are the problems that a transporter goes through? How does forwarding work, right? Uh, Visit, I'm sure visits can be organized through tie-ups with manufacturing facilities to understand how a supply chain function exists and enables the sales and other functions in a manufacturing company, be it pharma or any other manufacturing domain. I think the first and most important thing for me is to build that attitude. The aptitude can always follow, but if there is an attitude to understand, to explore, an engineer's mindset, maybe you can call it, to explore how this good is moving from point A to point B. I think that's the starting point for winning this battle. In terms of further skills, I think there are a plethora of options today available through the virtual world. Okay, and what Captain Ramanujan has mentioned are some of the options. But apart from that, also there are numerous virtual universities who are offering n number of supply chain operations, research, logistics related courses. The students should take out time to familiarize themselves with what is all this about, right? To me, that's extremely important. The third point that I would make on this is again borrowing from Captain Ramanujan's point of apprenticeship. I think there's no better way to get acquainted with what a sector really demands. Am I a right fit for this sector or not? Okay. Uh, the unique point about this sector, and I think Mr. Vora mentioned this a couple of times, is that you may not have to work 24/7, but you will definitely be expected to be available 24/7. There are no weekends. Let's be very honest about it, right? If a customer has a requirement for a good and that good is stuck somewhere, that consignment is stuck somewhere, then there is no Saturday or Sunday that can come in the way of making sure that the consignment reaches its end destination. Those are certain important attitude level requirements that have to be there. Uh, on the second question that you asked about, the contact-free
Yes.
logistics. Sorry, Shrikant, are you saying something?
No, I was saying yes, it is on contact free itself. Yes.
Yes. The second question was on contact free. See, I think our industry is unique in the sense that today, if you want to transact, there's a banking requirement, you can do that on a mobile phone. Nobody will have to visit anywhere, and the even at the back end, the settlement will happen online. It's a virtual settlement that happens between banks, right? You can send money to US today, and you will never have to visit a branch. Similarly, as far as entertainment is concerned, for example, today there's no hard and fast requirement to go and visit a cinema or a theater to watch catch the latest flick. You can do that on Netflix or Amazon, right? So there are versions of contact-free engagements that are emerging across industries. Logistics, I think, is one area where a physical good will always exchange hands. That's the underlying contract in any logistics workflow, and that physical interaction cannot be replaced with a contact-free system. But what has happened is that there were a set of processes in and around that exchange of goods. Those processes have increasingly gotten digitized. Okay, so earlier, if you had to go out and generate a particular consignment note, today there is an option to generate an e-way bill for sending consignment, right? Mr. Vora was talking about generating different documents that are required for sending an air shipment, which can be done now from an office, right? You don't have to really step up. So increasingly, more and more workflows which are ancillary to the actual physical movement of goods are being digitized, and one can expect that that should eventually reach 100% level, maybe. But at least in the next 3 to 5 years, I'm not seeing contact-free logistics happening. Post 5 years also, with the advent of drone technology, with the advent of robotic delivery systems or automated delivery systems, as and when the prevalence increases, those systems might replace the human touch, the final human touch that is there, right, towards the physical interaction of goods. That's my limited view on that. Happy to take any follow-up questions.
Great. Thanks, Rohan. One question, of course, which is a follow-up question for you also, and later on for most of the industry people here, is how can this internship thing is a very good model, and in fact, that's what we also advocate. So how can institutions work with organizations such as yours for such opportunities?
So, see what we are doing. So even during, I'm consciously aware of this because I put it on my LinkedIn. Even during COVID, we were recruiting salespeople, right? This is in the month of April and May when the whole industry was stuck. We are always happy to consider interns as well. As a policy, we have in the last 3 to 4 years recruited almost 50 to 100 people every year as freshers in all cargo within different streams of all cargo. And those 50 to 100 people have a certain course that they are put through to make them much more useful within the logistics sector, because there are no specific courses that are being taught so far in most of our graduate level degrees. We are happy to work out some kind of an arrangement separately with task, with the skill development council that Captain Ramanujan was talking about, to try and see if there's something specific that can be done. More so because we have one of our flagship companies which is headquartered in Hyderabad, Gati. We are happy to consider all those options, Shrikant. That's not a problem.
Thanks. Really appreciate that. So, Major General, let me move on to you. Now, if you could help us understand what is the specific focus areas for students to get employed in this sector, especially in the pandemic conditions, which means can they work from home in supply chain and so forth? And also, what opportunities does the Army offer in the supply chain sector, and how can students enter the forces in those roles?
All right. Shall I answer the second question first?
Sure, Major General.
Well, sir, as far as the Army is concerned, like I joined after my graduation from Ranchi University in undivided Bihar, and I was a BSc graduate. and I went through the Union Public Service Commission and the Services Selection Board, and I went for training to the Officers Training Academy in Chennai. Now, the Army, when you apply for an officers commission, you don't specifically mention the choice of your arm or service. It is only when you are about to pass out, they ask you for your three choices, but there is no guarantee, I repeat, no guarantee that you will get either three choices. Now, logistics, the vacancies are few compared to the fighting arms like the infantry or the artillery, that is the ones who fire the big guns, the armored corps, the people who fight with tanks, the infantry combat vehicles, mechanized infantry, the signals corps which provide communication, the engineers who do the mining, and so on and so forth. So it depends upon a large number of variables as to what kind of an arm or service you might get. So I want to tell these young people that as a BSc graduate, and again I'm saying I did not have PCM. Like Mr. Satish said, my father also wanted me to be a doctor. But with again a passion for soldiering, I joined the army, and during my course, I specialized in ammunition and armament logistics, including technology of armament and ammunition. So it depends. And then I also was a faculty in the military, that is the College of Materials Management at Jabalpur. So what I would like to convey is nobody should have this feeling will apply to the army to become an officer in the supply chain. No, that's not how it is done. But as I said, we are soldiers first. I have to first understand the army. I must know how to fire my rifle. I must know how to set up camp anywhere. My HR abilities, skills, like Captain Ramanujam will agree, HR skills, leadership skills, these are very, very important in the armed forces. But supply chain management per se, we have large number of courses, we have large number of specialization programs we do and we apply. And they are no different, as you know, the field of logistics itself. Some attributed to one general, Jomini, who was in Napoleon's army, who said that strategy can only be a success if logistics and tactics are applied to it. So now there are three major logistics services in the Indian Army. The Army Ordnance Corps, and to which I belong, we supply the military hardware and all the spare parts, almost about 500,000 items to the fighting army. We have to do the demand forecasting, we have to do sourcing from ordnance factories, defense public sector undertaking like BDL, imports, local contractors, MSCs, and so on and so forth. Then we have the Army Service Corps who did the rations, fuel, and fodder. I was talking about the last mile delivery. There are some posts of the Indian Army which can only be supplied by mules. These are army mules. So fodder for animals, for horses. So the Army Service Corps handles the food and fuel and the fodder. Then we have the electronics and mechanical engineers, which we have here, the MCME. They look after the repair and maintenance of the various technical equipment. Now, these are the three major logistics services of the Army. And yes, EME you can definitely opt for if you are an engineer. You can apply for the technical entry scheme. The age is between 19 and a half to 25 and a half. You go through the UPSC, the Services Selection Board, and then a merit list is made and you go to the Indian Military Academy or the Officers Training Academy. In 1992, the Indian Army opened up for women officers. These logistics services like the AOC, to which I belong, the ASC and EME, has a large number of these women officers who are doing exceedingly well. Many of them have topped the course whenever they apply, even ammunition courses, armament courses. So, like what esteemed panelist here said, there is no gender bias as far as the opportunities for women officers are concerned. It's known as the Women Entry Scheme. And anybody who's interested should go in for the indianarmy.nic website to see what are the qualifications and basic requirements. One thing I would like to convey, again, reiterate what Mr. Vipin said, as well as Mr. Satish. Passion and the desire to work hard and accept challenges is something very, very important. So, supply chain management, as I said, we have on-the-job training as well as we have structured programs both in India and abroad. That's one. Now, the specific areas, focus areas, which I feel for the students. One is business analytics. Now, one of the participants here, I think she said, as a BSc computer science, how do I enter the logistics? Well, business analytics is one of the, I would say, emerging areas where you have to analyze the weaknesses and strengths of the supply chain. It's a very, very potent field. Now, warehousing, at the cost of repetition, it's everyone here participants have said that it is again a growing industry, the warehousing industry, and particularly now in the pandemic conditions, when tier 2, tier cities as well as the rural areas, they are all getting things online. Now, one of the companies, they have started delivering seeds and farmers are booking it online. And the ITC e-Chopal is a very good example of how farmers have been empowered. The Amul model itself, which started in 1949, after all, farmers have become now owners of the Amul brand. So, but now everything is getting digital. So somebody said you have to have a knowledge about how digital processes are working, whether it's the front end or the back end processes. Now, I'll just give you one example. Rebel Foods, this Behroz Biryani, they are operating over 300 cloud kitchens. Contactless delivery and biryani is now being offered. Now, that's how they adapted to this pandemic situation. Asian Paints, predominantly, they are the market leaders as far as decorative and industrial paints are concerned. Now, when the pandemic started, I had a talk with one of their executives. Within 15 days, I repeat, 15 days, they came out with a range of sanitizers, including taking approvals from the government, product design, procurement of the raw materials, and as well as marketing. It's available on Amazon now. Now, that was a cross-functional effort by a company which is known for its supply chain efficiency. So they adapted. Now he says, yes, we got to do it. So there now, that's one area. Transportation sector, we all know UPS, FedEx. I mean, you have to, these are certain areas where people can, like entrepreneurship. This is a very, very portal, that is transportation. Then you have suppliers relationship management, vendor development. Some of our students who find these e-commerce companies, they are into this department of vendor development, because it all depends on the efficiency and responsiveness of the vendors.
Right.
Now, reverse logistics or return logistics. Now, very few people talk about it, but in these pandemic times, as well as the e-commerce companies who permit you to return stores, if you do not understand return logistics, reverse logistics, then obviously you cannot be successful there. Then facilities management services, it looks very, very dull, boring, and it looks like a very lowly job. But when people know that unless the facilities are kept running, which is again part of, I would say, the logistics sector, it has huge potential. Third party logistics, a simple thing like labeling, RFID is a little more, I would say, technology driven, but then barcoding, packaging itself. I know one or two small entrepreneurs who started manufacturing or rather supplying packages for some of these big market e-commerce companies. Now they have grown tremendously. Uh, Now e-waste management services. Now very few people really see the potential that if you have start a company which deals with e-management. We have certain companies like Chroma and other companies who will go and deliver it here, deposit it there, and we'll do it. But this has a huge potential because it deals with the environment, and the governments too would be quite willing to uh, promote these kind of things. And I would just like to say that Mr. Sandeep Chatterjee, who's now the associate director at Deloitte here at Hyderabad, I spoke to him. He says it is the supply chain industry which has come to the help of the people during this pandemic times, which my esteemed members in the panel, they have also said this. So if, but the unfortunate part is it is abstract to a student. He thinks that what is supply chain management? It is something like blind men trying to describe an elephant. No, it's a chain of activities, chain of companies. It's a network of companies. It's a network of relationships. These are some aspects which are not really appreciated or known to the students, and that is the biggest challenge. Mr. Rohan
Right.
had suggested that we take students to warehouse. I just want to say, Vishwani students, we take them to the DTDC warehouses in Kompally. It's really an eye opener. I agree with him that this is a very, very important act. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Very, very relevant points, that you have put across. In fact, we have touched two issues which are very close to my heart also. The first one is, of course, I always used to say, why does a student do an MBA without any work experience? Because he is given a case study on GIR, and he has never seen a GIR in his whole life. He doesn't know what a goods invoice receipt looks like. And you're absolutely right. Without going to a warehouse and seeing how it is done, the people would know. And second is, of course, I always talk about the e-waste, and I take a very simple example that if we assume India has 1 billion phones and each phone has got a charger, assuming 30% fault rate and the charger to be 100 grams, we are talking about 30,000 tons of e-waste being generated because of chargers only. And if we start putting the other things into it, then it's a huge drain on the environment and everything else. And of course, today the biggest challenge is how do you use the supply chain to collect all that material? Ramki over here is doing a brilliant job in Hyderabad, but that's one area where logistic companies are still trying to find their feet, and absolutely rightly said. So as we were speaking, a lot of questions have come up on the discussion boards, and I'm going to ask those questions, and please feel free whoever would like to answer it. Shweta is asking, how can we enter into logistics industry through BSc Computer Science as a fresher? I think Major General has already answered it, but in case someone would like to add to it.
Can I say something?
Yeah, please.
Let me tell you, all the, logistic companies, especially, big size and all, they all look for freshers, these days. Even our company, all multinationals, they all look for freshers to join this trade. So best way to do is either go LinkedIn, we always put our posts in the LinkedIn, what we require, or, there are, Naukri.com, transport and logistics services. The word is transport. There they have not given freight forwarding, as separate category. So they have, transport and, logistics services or something. There, I think all the big companies have already, there are ads, in the over there, Naukri.com and all. So they can go there and find out the jobs which are available right now in different companies, different states. Even now, my company is looking, people in the almost like 5 different states. So it's all there in the Naukri.com. Plus, as far as specific, computer science and all, we are open. As far as company ownership is concerned, we are what we are looking at is the person should have good knowledge about systems. He should be able to communicate better, and have strong will to work. That's the main thing. That is what is the body language. That is very important in this business. You just can't have because धीरे से आए और सीधे काम करना है. Sorry, we're looking for people who have got literally कम से बात कर रहा है. That's it in our logistic business. That's
Right.
what we look at.
Right. Captain, you wanted to add something? You need to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So first is you talked about Telangana, Hyderabad. I know, Hyderabad, incidentally, is the cheapest in terms of warehousing in the whole world. It is 7 times as cheap as London, which is the costliest. So that is no wonder that Amazon has made its hub out here.
Right.
Now going forward, given the current geopolitical situation with China, and also the Honorable Minister Shipping has already announced they're going to develop transshipment ports. Now, transshipment I'm talking about marine side. Earlier used to be leveraging location. Now it is leveraging volumes. As such, now we have 3 million TEUs getting transshipped through Colombo, and the fact that it is a volume game is clear when you say that when government relaxed cabotage, the transshipment per TEU dropped from $70 to $40. Okay, so which means now this 3 million into 40 is $120 million, which is straight available for you if you start doing it through transshipment clusters in India. Just imagine Visakhapatnam, Gangavaram, Kakinada on the east coast, and Mumbai and on the JNPT cluster on the west. And if you have Hyderabad as a hub, you can imagine the amount of value addition given the cheap warehousing costs, how much can be done out here. It is a question of this coming in. Already there are signals of us moving in the direction. Now coming to the jobs for youngsters, I think, as I said, please first look at the thing. How can you become a job giver? There are enough and more opportunities. Youngsters like you must take the risk. I'll give you examples now. A collapsible container. Just imagine a collapsible container with the due track and trace capability, means RFID, etc. If you just have to manufacture it and lease it out without anything, even if you become a lessee, you will make money on it, because the whole collapsible container comes back in 1/7 the volume, and you have the complete track and trace. So, for example, if you are having Banganapalli oranges, mangoes to be shipped to a particular buyer in Bombay from a particular orchard, you can have that level of specification, a kind of a match possible. So these are niche areas where you can look at. Can you adopt blockchain? Now you have transporters, 95% of the transporters are less than 5 truck owners. He is interested in getting his cash quickly. Can you have a blockchain software between him and the warehouse or the container freight station or an air terminal? The moment the container is lifted, a signal goes to the office and on to the warehouse, and his money is transacted to the bank. This is all that is needed. Can it be done? Yes, it can be. Let us look at the policy announcements of the government on the agricultural front. They've removed APMC, the Agricultural Product Market Committee. So the price is free. So here is a new age agri-techpreneur, which is very much possible. So opportunities such as this are enough. Lashing of cargo, huge opportunity. encoders for temperature, huge possibility. So like that, there are multiple opportunities which I would suggest you youngsters must look at. There are some specific questions which they have asked, whether polytechnic student, yes, we have created a specific program on diploma in logistics technology. We are running it in MSME Institute, Bhiwadi, which is a government institute. It's a state-of-art infrastructure with a hostel. Please apply for it. You'll be taken in. So that is one.
Yeah, so that was the question that Sheikh Salman Khan had asked. Yes, Captain.
Polytechnic, somebody, yes.
Yes. Sheikh Salman Khan had asked that.
Yes,
Now,
yes, yes.
moving to the next question, Arun Kumar Bora is asking, sir, is it really for sure that in 2025 and 2030, logistics will have the same boom? And sir, what are the colleges that can offer logistics specialization with good placements?
So we have 45 colleges right now running with these programs. All of the 400 students who did their first semester were apprenticed. Average stipend they were getting was 9,500 to 10,000 rupees. Highest was 15,000 rupees. And all of them have been very satisfied with the apprenticeship tenure. They said, this is what the best thing that could have happened to me. And all of them will be assured placements also.
Okay. A student called Hidden Magic or someone called Hidden Magic is asking, sir, while doing job in your company, can we continue our further studies too? So if I request Rohan and Satish and Vipinji to answer this.
Okay. So is Rohan taking it or you want me to take it?
All three of you.
Okay, fine. So I think the answer is yes. No organization stops from people from growing. It's just that once people come into the logistics, generally they come up and say that I'm too busy. But I'm a classic case of doing my MBA from Nasim Monji while my family was in Hyderabad. I moved into Bombay, stayed in a hostel. I used to go 3 days to college because those days we did not have laptops which had to be connected. So a classic case is that then my principal employers, which were AFL, they completely agreed for me to work for 3 days. So the logistic industry is one of the most agile and flexible as far as students going in. There's no rigidity. So I think I'm telling you, classic case is mine. I still continue to study as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah, as far as Continental is concerned, I have no problem. We have a lot of people who join and then they, appeared for their exams and all, and they studied, kept on studying. There's no issue at all.
It's the same with All Cargo, Gati as well. I can personally talk about examples where young freshers have come in, prepared for IAS while working, or prepared for GATE exams while working, or some have even gone ahead and done specializations in logistics. Just building on from what Satish said, personally, I'm currently learning how to code in Python because I think it's a valuable skill. So there's absolutely no concerns over there.
Good to know that, logistics industries, of course, I was quite sure about it, but yes, artificial intelligence, machine language, automation is also there to stay in logistics is something interesting that you told us. Again, looking at Sheikh Salman Khan's question, sir, how to know about job offers in logistics? I think that had been already answered by Vipin Voraji. But I would like to also request all the three organizations sitting over here is that since task is front facing and we have our jobs page, in case you have any job openings in Telangana, we would request you to also share those with us so that we can make them available for our 57,000 plus college going students and 130,000 plus pass outs.
Will be done, sir. Will be done.
Will be done. Will be done.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Shweta is asking, sir, what are the different ways to enter the logistics industry after graduation? Is there any exam as due for placement?
There is no exam.
Unless Captain wants to add anything there, because
there is no exam as such after graduation, but it is only the interview. But I am sure those who have done a logistics undergraduation program would be a preferred kind of a candidate going forward.
Okay. Archana Shaha is asking, how can small existing entrepreneurs enter into logistic companies? So I think Captain has already spoken about the various things that they are looking in right now, right from temperature control to RFID to everything else. But in case anyone else would like to mention something here, please go ahead. Yeah,
Okay.
sure, Major.
Well, I would like to add to what Captain Ramanujan had said. Apart from undergraduate courses, there are a lot of certification programs that organizations offer. For example, one of the organizations with which I'm associated, the International Supply Chain Education Alliance, its headquarters is in Ohio. There's an India chapter, and Sandeep Chatterjee of Deloitte, he's the present CEO of the India chapter. Now, they run a large number of certification courses like Certified Supply Chain Analyst, Certified Supply Chain Manager. It is online, and the examinations is quite rigorous, a 3 hours exam, multiple choice type, and that has to be done in a particular center. And a large number of companies worldwide, they recognize the certification program. There are other organizations also like EPICS and many other who offer online certification courses. Like Mr. Vipin says, Mr. Bora, freight forwarding, there's an institute in Bombay which gives certification programs on export, import documentation, customs clearance, survey, marine survey, and so on. So they must be on the lookout. They should check on these aspects as well.
Great, thank you. I think the last question, because we are already at 5 o'clock, Hari Krishna is asking, what are the opportunities of diploma graduates in logistics technologies? I think
I'll again say now this is a very, very important job profile for a logistic company. As all my esteemed panelists from the industry, and incidentally, all the three are our governing council members as well. Mr. Bora and all the locations, they are not really in the metro or inside a city. They are generally in a little far-flung area. So in case a forklift or a reach truck backs up, there are huge penalties to pay. So therefore, maintenance becomes a very critical area. And right now, there is nobody trained in these kind of things. Just a mechanical person has just comes and tries his hand and learns on the job and again does this. Now we are specifically training these candidates in the diploma in logistics technology, where they will be given exposure to such material handling equipment so that they can do the first line maintenance at site itself. So the profile is a very good profile.
Wonderful, wonderful. Any closing remarks from anyone, or I would ask of, yeah, please, Major General.
So I just would like to tell the youngsters, the world's richest man today, Jeff Bezos, what did he do? He understood supply chain management, designed some of the best global supply chains. That's what I'd like to say, and that's the potential of this industry.
Absolutely wonderful. So probably just ending on the Guru mantras from all of you, how do you stay focused and energized during this current period? Vipinji, passion, I think, is one word you have already said. What could be the other two?
See, basically, I tell you, today we are in the industry which keeps on moving. The mantra is that we have to always keep moving. Logistics. Logistic is one word which has got vast meaning. Everything you can, even a rickshaw guy loading the things on a rickshaw is also providing logistic. So the mantra is that whatever we do it with a passion, and logistic is one subject, one issue which is going to grow like anything. In the future is so bright when there's, I'm very optimistic about it. Very optimistic. A lot of people say, Vipinji, you always talk, it's going to be very good, very good. I said, you wait and see. I've been in this industry personally almost like 45 years now in the industry. And I've seen, those days when, even for 500 kg shipment, we used to be very happy. Today we are doing 40 tons a day. Even then we see, how can we reach 60 tons a day? So like this, it's keep happening. So the mantra is keep doing, keep fighting. The future is bright.
Thank you. Satish Garu.
Okay, quickly, I think from what Vipin and rest of them mentioned, the mantra or the 4 words that I want to leave for the people is bird, which basically means your future in logistics is going to be blockchain, IoT, robotic automation, and data analytics. So look forward for these 4 words, which will determine, because what we are doing today is not what is going to be we doing 5 years from now. So if they are planning to come into our industry and they are young enough, then they should focus on these 4 words to really be stay relevant.
Fantastic. Rohan, over to you.
Hi, I think for us, I think the mantra is embrace VUCA world. VUCA is a term that most of us are familiar with, but I'm still going to expand the word for everybody's benefit. V stands for volatility, U stands for uncertainty, C stands for complexity, and A stands for ambiguity. We believe that don't fight it, embrace the VUCA world, and we can emerge positively out of this whole flux. That's a short mantra.
Thanks. Major General.
So what I would like to tell them is, in the army or in the armed forces, we all are working in a environment of uncertainty and fails. Well, we have to take them in the stride, and challenges to take them in the stride. And this COVID pandemic is a challenge. These are uncertain times, and you cannot lose heart. You cannot afford to lose heart. Right? The mantra given by Mr. Satish, I think that's very, very apt. And you've got to reflexively equip yourself in these times, understand what the world is going through, understand geopolitics, how they affect. You must understand the economics of your country, the various industries. You have to read in excess of you think you will. And one mantra which we logisticians have been following in the army is, if it is possible, it can be done. If it is impossible, it will be done. So you got to take this, and all the best to all of you.
Thank you, Captain. Let me now move on to you. Guru Mantra from your side.
I hate to quote a Chinese, but it is unfortunately true. Sun Tzu said, Sun Tzu said, opportunities multiply when seized, and logistics is a sector of infinite opportunities.
Great. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been a wonderful, talking to you. I'll not say anything else because I think it was a conversation that we had, but a conversation which was very enlightening. I enjoyed it a lot, and I hope you did the same. Over to you, Shruti. With applause to all our panelists. Thank you very much for taking out time and helping our students in Telangana, the youth in Telangana, to understand how diverse this sector is, what kind of job opportunities this sector holds, and how they can become leaders in this industry itself under the guidance and mentorships of people like yourselves. Thank you. Over to you, Shruti.
Thank you, sir. I think an extremely enlightening discussion we've had. Lot of positive comments from the participants as well. I think it was a revelation for most of the participants to see the kind of potential that this industry has. A lot of now after, I mean, once we were through with almost 70% of the discussion, most of the questions coming in were, how do we apply for these jobs? Where do we find these jobs? So that means we have kind of stimulated interest among the participants in understanding what kind of opportunities are there. I think this is one industry that our students will look for. Also, with awareness about the kind of courses that the Logistics Skills Council offers and the other technologies that students need to learn, I think students can start thinking about way forward and building a career in this industry. Thank you so much to all the panelists for being there. Coming up next week, we have 30th July, we are doing a webinar on the expectation of health and medtech sector post COVID-19. This is another upcoming area, and we are, I'm sure we're going to have a discussion as enlightening as this one. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really enjoyed. Thanks.